What is up, all you beautiful people? It is I, AkemiTCG, back here with a brand new video. Dogmatika Invoked. We just got new Phantom Rage support, so I just wanted to update this deck profile. It's been doing pretty damn well at locals. We went X1 twice in a row, only losing to the final game. One match I lost against Altergeist because I just got outgrinded. And then one match I also lost to Eldritch because I also got ungrinded as well. Let's get to it. We are back. Here is my Dogmatika Invoked profile for the month of November post Phantom Rage. As you can already see, there's some controversial cards, some spice, but I will get to that in just a second. So with the monsters, we're starting with 3 Dogmatika Ecclesia. Don't need to explain this. If you guys are new to Dogmatika, bottom line is it's a very control-based deck. She's going to be your main searcher. She's basically your Stratos, which will get you literally any other Dogmatika card from your deck to the hand when you summon it. And also, if you do that, if you use its effect to search any Dogmatika card, for the rest of the turn, you're locked out of extra deck. 2 Fleur-de-Lis. This is the quick effect you can special summon during either player's main phase while there's an extra deck monster on the field. And if you do, and there's a Dogmatika card already face up on the field other than itself, then you can negate the effects of one face up card in the field. Non-targeting. This is probably the strongest card in the deck. You only want to run 2 because you can't guarantee that you're going to have an extra deck card in the field, or you also can't guarantee that there's going to be another Dogmatika on the field as well. 1 Ashiyan. This is the new card from Rise of the Duelists. This is the late game card. So this has a trigger effect. Whenever a fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster is sent to the graveyard, except during damage step, so it can't be destroyed by battle, you can special summon this from the hand. Then you can add a Dogmatika card from your graveyard back into your hand. So this can be really useful if you're recurring a Fleur-de-Lis. That's probably the best usage for it, but also you can recur Dogmatika Punishment for the defensive play next turn. But I'm trying it at 1. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like it, but the only problem is you don't want to open it. You kind of want to search this with Ecclesia later on in the game, because later on in the game you run out of options with Ecclesia if it gets to the late game point, and Ashiyan is a very good option to recur your past resources. You just don't want to open it. 1 Maximus. This is probably the iffy card in the deck. Sometimes if you feel like your opponent's playing a counter, you just side this out very quickly. Good example of decks that don't really run counters for this is probably going to be Dragon Link and Infernoble, because if you're playing against either of those decks, they don't have space in their extra deck to play any Dogmatika counter cards in especially game 1, so you can play it early and it's fine. But if you're able to resolve this and your opponent doesn't have any pluses from it, then you plus extremely hard from Dogmatika Maximus. So that's it for the Dogmatika cards. You have 3 Alistar the Invoker. You're playing the Invoked Engine in this. I think this is the most consistent way you can play this deck, simply because Alistar summons a Makaba and you still have the same number of cards in your hand after the whole combo's over, because you use Invocation, you recur Alistar back into your hand. This is there's no other way I can say that, or deck that is as consistent as the Alistar engine with the Dogmatika build, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with that. For the hand traps, 3 Ash Blossom. It's extremely good right now. Really depends on your locals. A lot of people in my locals play Dino, so I want to open Ash to get rid of their Miss when they use Miss's second effect to banish from graveyard. That's primarily the reason why I play the Ash Blossom. And then the 3 Valor, simply because a lot of people in my locals runs Verte Anaconda. Play to your liking. You could play 2 Valor, 2 Ash, and 2 Ghost Spell. That works as well, because Ghost Spell is really good in this format as well when you really think about it. But completely up to you. But Valor's not a hard once per turn, which is nice, but you can only use it during your opponent's main phase, which does kind of blow at some points. Now on to the spells. 1 Call by the Grave. It's only at 1. I do want to play it at 1. It has come up a couple times in tournament where I opened up the Call by it and I opened up the Nadir and just felt really good. But it's a good card. It's a really good card, and it's unfortunate we have it at 1, but when we get Crossout Designator in February, then we will be playing something to that effect. 3 Forbidden Droplet in the main. I like this card in the main a lot just because you're going first or second. If you're going first, it's an interruption, especially if you have your meltdown on the field. You can just get rid of your meltdown and it's as if you lost nothing at all. And also if you go in second, you're playing against the solid Red Eyes, Trees, and Dragoon, then you can bait out the Dragoon effect, then use Droplet and then do your thing. Also during damage step, cutting monsters' attack in half is very, very underrated as well. 2 Invocation, you're only playing the 2 Invocation for the Alistar engine. 3 is a little bit too bricky. There's a lot of games where you just don't open up Alistar, which really, really sucks. So that's why I'm playing the 2 Invocation. 3 Meltdown, this is essentially your 4th, 5th, and 6th copy of Alistar. 3 Nadir Servant, this is gonna get you a +1 almost every single time. You either send Natis to pop one of your opponent's cards, or you send Titaniclad to during end phase special summon or add a Dogmatika monster from deck to your hand, which is really neat. And also it gets you literally any of your Dogmatika engines. So if you're not playing the 3 Nadir Servant with Dogmatika, then you're definitely doing it wrong. 2 Pot of Desires. I like this card a lot right now. I used to run the Dragoon package and I realized without Desires, this deck loses a little bit of draw power. Most of the time with Desires, you're already going to have a play set up. So you're going to already have Makaba and Ecclesia on the field with the Fleur de Lis in hand. So you're using the Desires to just fish yourself for extra hand traps, extra resources, anything of that effect. And it's really good. 3 Super Poly. I am manning 3 Super Poly this format. Why? Because a lot of people in my locals plays some variant of Dark decks, and in the worst case scenario, you normal summon Alistar, they impermanent. Let's say they impermanent, they do something about it, and you open up Super Poly. Now you can set the Super Poly, and you can literally Super Poly your Alistar, and almost or most of the common elements that the opponent has into your monster. And especially if it's a light, then you get yourself a Makaba using their cards, and you can interrupt their play pretty hard. That's why I really like it. Only problem with Super Poly right now is if you play it against some matchups, it's just not applicable. So you have to side them out. But for my locals, there's about 9 out of 10 people I play against at my locals. This is like a 20-man locals. Play some variant of a deck that loses the Super Poly. So that's why I'm playing it. 2, 3 Tacticals. I like this card at 2 more than 3. Simply because of the hard once per turn clause, and also it just runs very smoothly at 2. I've never not resolved it when I ran it at 2, but when I ran it at 3, for whatever reason, I drew into multiples of it too often, and that's just not good. Especially since we're playing Desires, it just makes sense too. Now on to the traps. Playing 2 Dogmatika Punishment. I'm playing this at 2 simply because I have Pot of Desires. That's the only reason. If I wasn't running the Desires, then I just played that 1. 3 Ice Dragon's Prison. Arguably one of the best traps, if not the best trap in the format. You can revive your opponent's monster in the graveyard, which acts as a form of disruption. You take that monster too, and in the same effect, if there's 2 face-up types on the same field, or 2 face-up monsters on the field with the same type, including the one you just revived from the graveyard, you can banish both, non-targeting. So ideally, you bait out Dragoon's effect first, then you flip Ice Dragon's Prison, and what's going to happen is you're going to take your opponent's Dark Magician that they use to summon Dragoon, and then banish both Dark Magician and their Dragoon. So it's a 2-for-1, and also you just straight up win games with this. You go into battle phase, attack with everything. They have, let's say, less than 2,000 life points. You Ice Dragon's Prison them, you take their monster, you attack them for game. So it's just a really solid, flexible card. The only drawback is you can only use once per turn, but that drawback is like nothing compared to how good this card is. And last but not least, obviously, 3 Infinite Impermanence. Really good hand trap. This is hand trap format, unfortunately, and you're playing the 3 Imperm, the 3 Valor, the 3 Ash. So that's 9, and it's decently enough because I am playing the Droplet and the Talents. But with this amount of hand traps, it's really hard not to draw into a hand trap. Hence is the reason why I run so many, and the deck's already consistent enough. Even without the hand traps, but with the hand traps, it makes it even more and more control. On to the extra deck. I am playing that one copy of Dragon Master Knight. Why am I doing this? Is because Dogmatika Punishment can only kill stuff that's 2500 or lower. This gets over a Megaclops, which I expect more people to be running Zodiac Dogmatika. You can also be playing 5-headed dragon, but however, 5-headed dragon is a dark, this is the light. So this is fodder for Makaba as well, which is why I run this over 5-headed. And it pops literally anything in the game 5000 or below, which is, was it 99.9% of cards? Unless there's like some sort of buff. But also, the reason why I play this is there's another combo with Agodes, where Agodes can banish one of your fusion monsters from the graveyard, and it gains that fusion monster's attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So this becomes a 7000 beat stick, and with Alistar, that's game. And it does. There's no clause that says this can't attack directly. So your opponent's off guard, they pay for Dragoon or something, and then you use Dragon Master Knight. You somehow get in the graveyard with either Nadir or something. You can even Nadir it. Agodes attack for 7000 for game. It's pretty good. That's why I play the one Dragon Master Knight. 2 Natissus. A lot of people play this at 1. I like this at 2 just because it just has a lot of usage. I've had games where I had to top deck for the win, and I top deck Nadir Servant for the win to pop their card and then just swing for game. So I like it at 2. 1 Mud Dragon for the super poly target. Agodes for the reason I mentioned before, and also it's a form of interruption. It destroys a monster when it's summoned, and then once per turn when your opponent special summons a monster, you can choose to destroy it as well. So it's really, really nice. A lot of people misread the card and don't realize that it's another form of disruption. Elysium for the super poly. It also did come in clutch when I played against the mirror, and I used invocation. I hit my Agodes and I hit my Makaba. Agodes on the field, and then Makaba in the graveyard, and I summoned Elysium and then banished all his monsters to attack for game. 2 Makaba, because you just play 2. This is the Omni Negate. And with this deck, you do want to keep, most of the time you do want to keep a spell in hand just in case they have a problematic spell, because sometimes spells can be more problematic than monsters. 1 Purgatrio. A Triforanthum for the fusions. It actually came up once where I played against a zombie player and he overcommitted way too hard. All I had on the field was just a lone Alistar. He overcommitted. He summoned Dragoon, 2 Balderrock, and Union Carrier. He used Union Carrier to target his Balderrock, and I flipped Super Poly, and then I fused his 2 Balderrock and Dragoon together to make my Triforanthum, and his hands were just tied up. Because at the time, he didn't even have a field spell. Sovereign Venom, again for the 2 darks, very generic. I do like Dragostapelia, I just don't have space for it. I just prefer the Triforanthum because it just really heavily punishes overextenders. 1 Titaniclad for the end phase search or end phase special summon. And then for the links, you have Nightmare Phoenix. I'm playing the 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix. The reason why I'm playing this is when I triple Tactical's talent, I realized earlier on when I was playing this deck, especially in the previous format, like before November, that I would take their monster and I have nothing I can do to get rid of that monster. Like, I've already siphoned up my Garna, my Almirage, but there's no way I can link off or do anything with that monster. I can just take that monster and then swing with it and use its effect, whatever, and if I'm not done with them, that monster goes back. So Nightmare Phoenix is basically just kind of like the soft out to it, and it also pops back row, and sometimes 1 back row can be extremely problematic. So this came up a lot more often than not, and I just like it at the 1 Almirage to climb, and then 1 Secure Gardener to climb with Alistar as well. If you're enjoying this deck profile, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, or else you're going to get hand trapped for the rest of eternity. It's going to happen. My sideboard is going to be very finicky, just a heads up. So with the sideboard, you want to always cater it to the people you're playing against at your locals. But if you go into regionals, then obviously you cater it towards more of the meta. So here I'm playing the Triple Dimension Shifter. This shuts down so many decks. I cannot believe how good this card is. I used to play Triple Nibiru, but then I realized Shifter just has more options. Like Nibiru, you want to open it first because your opponent's gonna combo first turn most of the time. But D-Shifter, you also want to open it first. So that's like my stipulation between those two cards. But with D-Shifter, everything your opponent sends to the graveyard, well, both players send to the graveyard, is banished until the end of the next turn. This is busted against Dinos, against Eldritch, Adamancipator, especially Info Noble Knights, Dragon Link, everything. This card destroys all of those decks, and that's why I'm running the triple D-Shifter over the Nibiru. You drop it early enough, then your opponent's kind of like a sitting duck. I'm playing the Gamma package, the 3 Gamma, 1 Driver, just for the combo decks, just because it's a good card. I like it not in the main, just because I can't guarantee that I'm always going to go second, and the hard stipulation is I have to have no monsters in the field to resolve Gamma's effect. I'm not playing Lambda, so that's hence the reason why I decided this card anyways. Harpy's Feather Duster, destroy the back row. Dogmatika's biggest weakness is back row. In my honest opinion, it's just back row. So that's why I have Harpy's Feather Duster, triple Lightning Storm for the back row, 3 evenly matched for the back row, and then Red Reboot for the back row as well, because back row is just a pain. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards for the back row, and then 8 cards for going second against combo. That's just basically how I catered this sideboard. Now on to the soft combos. There aren't so many crazy combos because I'm not running the Shaddoll package anymore. And if you need my explanation on why I'm not running Shaddoll package, is I drew into Schism too often. A lot of people were playing around Maximus, so I just didn't like it a lot. And also, I just prefer Super Poly just so much more. Completely up to you guys in terms of that opinion. But on to the soft combos. So here is probably the most basic combo with this deck. You can do Alistar the Invoker plus Ecclesia or Nadir Servant. Nadir Servants for the most mileage, because this is just a broken hand. If you just start with these 2 cards, you're in a good spot. You're going to normal summon the Alistar. With the Alistar, you can use its effect, get the invocation from your deck to your hand. And then what you're going to do is you're going to link out the Alistar. You're going to special summon the Almirage, or link summon the Almirage rather. You link the Almirage away and go into Secure Garner. Then you're going to play that invocation, banish that Secure Garner that you just summoned and the Alistar from the graveyard, and then get yourself a Macabre. Invocation is going to go to the graveyard, and then you're going to use Invocation's effect. Because you have a banished Alistar, you just recur it back to your hand, put the invocation back into the deck. Doesn't actually go to the bottom for the purposes of this video, it's going to go to the bottom. So now you have 1 Macabre, and you still have the Alistar and the Nadir Servant in hand. So you're still at break-even point. Now I'm going to play the Nadir Servant, and you're going to add yourself an Ecclesia from your deck to your hand by sending Titanic Lab. So you actually send the Titanic Lab first, and then you add Ecclesia, but remember, it does not send for costs. So you activate Nadir, they have to respond to it before you can send anything. Now with Ecclesia, you're going to special summon itself, use its effect, get yourself a Dogmatika punishment so you can punish your opponent for doing shenanigans on the next turn. You're going to set that punishment, and during the end phase, Titanic Cloud is going to activate, and you're going to get yourself Fleur de Lis from your deck to your hand. So now with the 2-card combo, you still have 3 cards. You have 3 cards on the field, and you still have 2 cards in the hand. So you have 1 monster effect disruption, or it could be spells or traps depending on what you have in your hand other than those 2 cards. And you have a Fleur de Lis, which is a monster disruption as well, and Dogmatika punishment, which can pop stuff. And you can pop 2 things if you decide to pop with Natis as well. And if they, let's say they have a big ultimate conductor and somehow that resolved because they drop miss, then during battle phase you can drop it and then use Dragon Master Knight, just get rid of it. The next one's with Ashian in the hand and Alistar. Let's say it's a little bit later on in the game, you just have Ecclesia and Fleur de Lis, and you finally drew into your Alistar or your Meltdown that you need to start off the combo. So what you're going to do is you normal summon the Alistar, use its effect, get the invocation, link the Alistar off into Almirage. Then link this off into Secure Garner. This will trigger Ashian's effect. You can special summon it from the hand. You can do it in attack mode, defense mode, doesn't matter. Then you can recur your Ecclesia from your graveyard back into your hand. Then you're gonna activate invocation, get rid of these 2. Oh, I messed up. You don't draw into anything there. Then you get the Makaba. Invocation is going to recur your Alistar back into your hand. Then you can special summon the Ecclesia, use Ecclesia's effect, and get yourself either the trap card that you want, the punishment, or let's say you're trying to go for game. This is 45, 6,000 plus Alistar 7,000. You want to go for game, then you get Fleur de Lis, and that's super game. You can even get game with Maximus as well. Just really depends on what you fancy. But Fleur de Lis, it's safe. Fleur de Lis is pretty safe. Then you push for game, and you do have a negate as well. Anyways, everyone, hope you all enjoyed. I'll be updating my other decks very soon. The next deck I want to work on is Crusadia. So if you want to see that, want to see more, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. But other than that, just, you know, use this deck list, slam some remote duels, get some W's. All right, have a good one, guys. See ya.